author of Be Smart, Pay Zero Taxes, and he is a financial expert and an author with a lot of fantastic ideas. Mark, welcome to the show. I'm really pleased to meet you.
Thanks for having me, man. I was looking forward to doing this.
Great. And, it's important, I think, a lot of people who watch Crowdsource the Truth, Mark, sometimes like to listen to people who say, oh, Jason, you're a statist. Don't pay taxes. We need to protest and blah, blah, blah. I find that to be a terrible approach. I don't want to encourage anyone to do anything against the law. And I also want to say for myself, I am not a financial expert. I am not a certified public accountant. I'm not an attorney. Nothing on this show is financial planning advice or tax advice or legal advice. Certainly not from me, but I'm very eager to hear what Mark has to tell us. He's written several books. Where should we begin, Mark?
First of all, I'm not a financial advisor either. I used to be a financial advisor for 15 years. I used to train financial advisors. I've trained hundreds of financial advisors. I was the financial advisor for CPAs, and I left in 2018 because I thought the system was kind of ridiculous. They were funding retirement accounts and no one was going to retire. The CPAs didn't know how to legally avoid taxes, and the CPAs were going to die at their desk. So I was like, this industry doesn't feel like it's legitimate. I was like, this is crazy. So I left. It was very, very expensive. When I wrote Top 10 Ways to Avoid Taxes, they gave me two choices: release the book and resign and give up all the passive income you built, or don't release the book and stay as a financial advisor. So that was it. I was like, cool.
Wait a minute. Who gave you that advice that you have to resign? You mean you were working for some CPA firm?
No, it's called selling away. If you're a financial advisor, you can't really give honest financial advice. You can't. It's called selling away. You're terminated, blacklisted, and you can't write financial books as a financial advisor. They don't allow it.
Wow. Okay, So you're really cracking the system here, and this is the important thing. I like what you're saying. Donald Trump said to Hillary Clinton, he's smart for not paying taxes. And you're right. If there is a legal mechanism where you can invest in a certain way or borrow against certain assets to reduce your tax liability. I mean, look, this is one of the biggest problems that I had, is that for many, many years, I was very focused on my career and earning money, and I just never paid attention to taxes. I just went to an accountant who told me what to do, and I would pay some amount, and, it was always too much. So tell us, obviously we want people to buy the book. We're not trying to give away all of your secrets here on this interview, but what sort of things can people expect to read when they purchase Be Smart and Pay Zero Taxes?
I mean, it's again, I've spent, if I calculate, I spent 60,000 hours on this. So 60,000 hours, spent 20 years of my life studying finances and wrote 4 books. I've been around the block. I used to set up 401ks. I've done all that stuff. I've been down all the rabbit holes of money and taxes and finances. This is the best that I've ever found. And it's not I didn't create the system, by the way. It comes from the University of Southern California, right? If you're in California, comes from a USC. There's a guy named Ed McCaffrey. He coined the phrase. He studied how billionaires don't pay taxes. It was simple: buy assets, never ever sell them, borrow from one asset to buy another one. The loans aren't taxable, so you're buying additional assets with money you didn't have to work or pay taxes. Never sell it. When you die, you get a stepped up basis. You pass all the wealth to your family without paying taxes, and then they use the buy, borrow, die strategy. I didn't create it. I wish I said I created the strategy. It's been around for decades. All the rich people use it. I just proved that ordinary Americans can do it. I mean, you can start with $100 in a brokerage account, and you can also live in California and also pay no taxes. So I live in California. I moved to Tennessee, and I could still live in California and not pay taxes. It's just a little harder because it's so tax heavy. You have to use more strategies to get away from the tax system.
Wow. And so you also had a thing that you were talking about, SMART, save money and retire. What was the T?
Strategies to maximize assets and reduce taxes, right? And by the way, tax deferral is not tax savings, okay? That's a retirement account, whether it's a 401k, IRA, SEP IRA, 403B, call it what it is. It's not a thrift savings plan. Ooh, all these financiers. You're just deferring taxes down the road and you're making it bigger so the government can take their bigger bite off the larger portion for the rest of your life. And then you can pass those tax problems on to your kids. So I suggest retirement plans for people who don't like their kids. So there you go. Just give them the gift of a massive tax problem. If you don't like your kids, if you like your kids, use buy, borrow, die. So.
And people can also follow you on X at Mark J. Quann. You've got your website here, The Perfect Portfolio. Now, this is another thing that's sort of maybe adjacent to, but not exactly the same as your tax strategy, or is it? The Perfect Portfolio, this is something that you came up with during the height of the pandemic when everybody was locked down, right?
Yeah, I used to do, so when I resigned in 2018 as a financial advisor, I said, well, what am I going to do? I was right. I wrote top 10 ways to avoid taxes. I'm like, I should do tax consulting for real estate and mortgage companies. So I started promoting a company called Remy Group. We used to do tax consulting and real estate, mortgage, insurance, and investing, right? So we'd go to La Jolla and Beverly Hills and Malibu, and I was doing seminars in like Century City and big venues. And I was doing tax consulting, showing rich people how to multiply their assets and avoid taxes. Okay. So I finally got the company cranking on. We were booked solid. And then coronavirus came and I was like, oh man, literally, I just started this new company, just got it off the ground, and all my appointments canceled because of COVID. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, what am I going to do now? Like, all right, the government's sending me lots of money, free, no taxes, whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm going to invest. So I went on Instagram. The stock market was crashing. I put a triple short. So I was betting down on the market as coronavirus. I'm sitting there making tons of money. And then I hit bottom, and I was super skeptical about COVID, by the way. I didn't trust it at all. I knew there was a fly in the ointment, we'll say. And we'll say that's a different topic. But I was like, okay, it hit bottom. There's a fear and greed index. The fear and greed index hit 5. That's when people are panic selling. I'm like, oh, we got to be close to the bottom here, right? Because only so many people are gonna sell. So all the people that are living in fear, they sold everything. I bought it in. I put a triple long. And I went on Instagram. Go to March of 2001, and my Instagram, all the positions that I was buying. I started going on there, making tons of money. And I started helping my friends and family, and I was like, man, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this. I was making tons of money. And I'm like, and then people are like, you need to start a financial education company, like the stuff you're teaching. And I'm like, all right, what are we going to call it? Got together with some friends. What are we going to call it? What are we going to do? I charged $1,500 with I got like 50 clients and past friends and said, hey, I want to try this idea, $1,500. We'll just work with this. And if it takes us 2 years, we're going to figure this out together and we'll do it. And then we spent the last 4 years on it. We proved that we ran about 500 people through this system. We discovered the buy, borrow, die strategy because we were already buying and borrowing. I already knew that was what the wealthy did, buying and borrowing to accumulate assets. SMART is strategies to maximize assets and reduce taxes. There's a thing called dead money. I personally will never buy an asset unless I can take a loan from it. I want to establish that asset, borrow to fund asset B. As those assets grow, I can borrow from asset A and B to buy asset C. If I can have those 3 assets grow, I'll borrow from asset A, B, and C to buy next asset. And I'll continue doing that over and over. And I'm circumventing the US tax system as long as I never sell.
But it raises a question, Mark. Isn't this, not to push back, but isn't there a risk involved? I have a friend who in the early 2000s, he had a software development company that was doing very well. And it was right around the time that Las Vegas started getting built up, and then neighborhoods like Henderson and Summerlin were having a lot of residential areas come in. So he got a very large, like 4,000 square foot house for less than $500,000 that today is worth, I don't know, maybe 2 million or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
But he did sort of what you're saying, but this was the subprime mortgage issue where he was getting other houses and borrowing against those houses. And then the problem was he got this whole string of loans based on other assets that when stuff went south, it just created this cascade of collapse. Is there a way to protect against that in the strategy that you were suggesting?
You get educated. You get highly educated. You learn to speak the language of money. But honestly, what other people think the language of money is horrible. It's setting you up to fail. Okay, the system's rigged. To sound like a conspiracy theorist, it is rigged. Look at the source of financial education. Okay, where does the term financial advisor come from? Where does the term retirement account come? Where does the term retirement come from? Who convinced us that the word retirement was a thing? In order, if you agree with retirement, you agree that you convinced by Wall Street that you need to go work until you're 65 or 70 and fund Social Security and fund your 401k. Who benefits when you agree with that? Right? I don't believe in retirement. I'm going to work until I'm
what's the answer to that? Who tells us all that? The government?
You understand tax codes, you invest, and you build your wealth without paying very little taxes. You use the exact tax codes that the rich people do. There's 49 different chapters. Like, pick 3 and start using them. You're going to win. You know what I mean? Pick 49. Man, you combine 49 different strategies. I use them all.
Wow.
I use them all. And I found what's the simplest thing. And I said, can I simplify it? Can I make it so anyone of any income can do it, and anybody can? If you just invest it, I don't suggest this to everybody. I suggest it that the people who want to invest money and time into their financial IQ. Right. If you're willing to do that, you can get super wealthy. Your family can, because you're just going to use the strategy that billionaires use: buy, borrow, die. Right?
Right. So. It's interesting. And you said it's rigged. Of course, that's a general statement. But when you talk about this buy, borrow, die strategy, this is one of these things where somebody with the type of expertise and experience that you have comes and explains this all to us. I think there's a lot of people listening right now who are like, you know what? I sort of knew this. I couldn't articulate it, and I don't have the facts and details that Mark is giving us right now, but nothing you're saying is like a shock, right? It obviously makes sense that this is what rich people do, and it's almost like it's like an inside joke that they know about, that they don't want us to all know about.
Kind of
For people who are just
like,
joining,
okay.
We're talking to author Mark Quann about his book, Be Smart, Pay Zero Taxes. And Mark, if people have filed extensions for their taxes, it's still a very good time to purchase this book. They could still use your strategies, if not for this year, for the years moving forward, right?
Yeah, I'm in Tennessee. They just extended all my stuff till November, so I got no tax deadline on my personal and corporate. It doesn't really matter. I mean, for me, certain states, like, we don't have to pay taxes till November, so we're good. So we got extensions. So yeah, somebody can, but it doesn't matter about this year. It's in 2025. How much are you going to pay in taxes?
Right.
Calculate that number. By the way, if you're putting money in tax-deferred retirement accounts because you're a financial advisor and CPA, you're going to have to pay way more money in the future because you're just deferring taxes. You're growing a retirement account larger so the government can take larger portions. You might even trigger the taxes on your Social Security. So Social Security is a tax. It was promised to be tax-free when you get your benefits. Okay? And then they said, oh, don't worry, your Social Security is going to be tax-free. Don't worry about it. Everyone's going to get it tax-free. 1993, they're like, let's just tax it a little bit. Yeah, we'll say it's just the rich people that are going to pay it. Oh yeah, well, they'll vote for that. 1993, let's jack it to 85%. So we'll tax it. But we're only going to tax the rich people. Okay? No, it's a direct tax on middle class. So first of all, you were taxed. Then you said Social Security wasn't going to be taxed. Then they taxed it. And then they put the 401k in there and said retirement accounts. You're going to save money on taxes, but it's the distribution from the 401k that triggers the taxes on the Social Security. It's called triple taxation. Wow. And then you have to fight inflation on top of that, which is 4 times taxes. And then they don't adjust Social Security to the real inflation rate, which is 5th time they stole from you. Like, how many times can the government steal from you just on Social Security? 5 times, and then then there's people stealing from it? Like, that's 6
exactly. Like, I want to address that right now, actually, because you just said something that triggered something in my mind.
How much? But they make sure they don't know it. Just keep the population. Oh, don't worry, we're going to help you, as they're just knifing you in the side, stealing from you every possible chance they can. Like, well, why are you so against taxes? Because there's government the government says, oh no, we should reduce taxes this week. They go, oh, let's start another division, hire our friends, let's pay them all huge salaries, and then, buy off politicians and stuff like that. And then when they have the budget, you could have $100 million there as a government division and say, man, we didn't spend any of it. Oh, let's spend it next year because then we renew it next year.
Right.
Next year they get 200 million and they go, oh, we didn't spend any of it. Let's spend it. And they spend 200 million. Give them 300.
Wait, let me slow you down because you're bringing
million.
up many points. You're bringing up many points that I want to address. This is a good conversation for you and I to have. So I want to disambiguate something because you're talking about the government stealing, and I agree that is happening. But there's two different varieties of stealing going on. If I understand you correctly, you're colloquially referring to taxation itself as theft, which many people agree with, but obviously it's not a crime. It's an official thing that the government does. Separately, if I understand correctly, you're talking about actual criminals who engage in fraud and other things to actually steal money from the system, causing the politicians to have to increase taxes and increase other methods of getting money so that it increases to the colloquial theft. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, you have illegal theft, which is just stealing from us and calling it a non-governmental organization or whatever, or just bringing people in the country, giving them social securities and have them collect social security. That's technically theft. But here's the thing. Inflation is theft. Nobody voted. See, the government. So here's the thing. If there was no money printing press, there wouldn't be wars. You realize there would be no war? If the governments didn't be able to print any amounts of money and then create 10 times that amount in computers, there'd be no war. Because nobody wants to imagine.
Well, they couldn't afford it. They wouldn't have the money to pay for it.
Yeah, there'd be no money to fund the military industrial complex and start wars. There's no money there. Now the government goes, all right, we need to start another war. Oh, not start another war, but okay, there's probably a reason to go to war because we need military industrial complex. Okay, so they print trillions of dollars, but the government is stealing from you, but they're not. That's taxation without representation.
I think people don't realize maybe what you're talking about is that by printing more money, you as a regular person get $1, it looks like $1, but because there's so many more of them now, each one has less value. And without your consent, if you have $100 in the bank and it's worth $100 and the government goes and prints 10 times as much money, your 100 is now $10 and you didn't even know, and you still have to pay taxes.
Correct. So
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this about stay on Social Security for a second, because there's been so much in the news about Social Security. You would think that someone saying, hey, in a general sense, we're going to create this Department of Government Efficiency to look for inefficiencies in a big bureaucratic system that anybody could basically surmise there's going to be inefficiency in, but yet it's become this politicized thing where Democrats are just pushing back. I've seen stories saying that Doge is stealing money, that Elon Musk, the richest guy in the world, needs to get involved in a scam to steal money from Social Security. It doesn't make sense. But why are they so upset about this? It seems to me, Mark, that politicians, we're attacking their source of income, aren't we?
Yeah, the people screaming the loudest are the ones who are probably the most corrupt.
That's
just my opinion.
I agree.
That's it. The people that aren't corrupt, they're not going to be screaming about it because, whatever. It's generally the people who've been getting the most money from it. They're probably the ones going to be screaming against it. So it's just people. I mean, nobody wants to have their income taken away.
No.
If you're a government worker, right, living on, let's say you're sitting at home for the past 4 years, just chilling, right? COVID, you're like chilling, not doing anything, collecting your paycheck, and they're going to cut your paycheck. You're like, man, I'm kind of comfortable sitting at home all day long doing nothing. This is fun. How many of them got extra jobs on the side? You know what I mean? That's
right.
I don't know. We don't know. If we don't audit it, we don't know.
Right. Yeah. Now, the other thing that you just brought up that's a very important subject is the non-government organization, the tax-exempt 501c3, 4. This is a topic that it's funny, I never knew anything about it, but as a result of starting Crowdsource the Truth and interviewing smart experts like yourself, I've been exposed to all of this stuff. And one of my most frequent guests is a guy named Charles Ortel, who is an expert. You and he could have an excellent conversation,
sounds like fun.
Yeah. And he's been saying for a long time that these tax-exempt organizations need to be audited and many of them need to be, shut down, at least from a tax-exempt standpoint. Now we see President Trump talking about revoking Harvard's tax-exempt status. Is this something you're prepared to talk about?
I think Harvard has a $50 billion
Yeah.
reserve. They're a hedge fund.
Yeah.
They're not like a nonprofit organization. So here's the thing. I was a kid, right? I was a poor kid living in poverty. Okay. I have 3 generations of poverty on my own side, living in the bad neighborhoods, all that stuff. I'm like, this is stupid. I hate being poor. There was no internet. There was no apps on my cell phone where I could invest and start buy, borrow, die. There was nothing like that. So I'm like, this sucks, right? But I always was skeptical about school. School didn't feel like school. It felt like indoctrination. I didn't know what the word indoctrination felt, but I wouldn't go to school. I left after grade 9. I was like,
Wow.
something's wrong with this schooling thing. They're telling me to show up and do that and go to the bathroom and put up your hand and do this and do that and do that. I'm like, I was super skeptical. I'm like, there's something wrong with this. I don't know what it is, but I'm not going back here. And I wouldn't go to school.
I like that.
Yeah, I was like, this is it. So I'm like, okay, I never got a high school diploma. Then
Wow.
in Canada, I was like working the worst jobs ever, construction jobs, and I was painting pipes in the middle of winter in Ottawa. You know how
Oh my
cold it was?
God.
Frozen feet. I mean, frozen feet. I was riding a mountain bike to work in the snow because the Ottawa thing was on strike. I was working the worst possible jobs you could ever possibly imagine. I was knocking asbestos off of pipes for a copper piping company so they could
Wow.
brutal stuff. So I've drilled concrete under houses for weeks. I've done roofing. I've done attic work. All those jobs I've done. I was like, this sucks. So I'm like, I'm gonna go to college, right? I'm gonna go to college. You can do that in Canada with no high school diploma. Show up at college, London, Ontario. I'm gonna go to business school. So there's entry program, 6 months in the thing. They test you. You're like, cool. You passed your test. Welcome to college, right?
Hmm.
No problem. It was like an easy test. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I got to memorize questions. I got to memorize the answers, and then you're going to let me into college. I'm like, that's another scam right there. Okay. So, and then I'm in. Funny thing, my roommate was like the president of the student union. Okay. He goes,
Yeah.
dude, you should run for VP External Affairs. I'm like, oh, I run, boom. I've been VP External Affairs. Now I'm like a VP. I got a little office in the college. And
Wow.
guess what? I sit on meetings and I'm like, whoa, this is a total scam. So the college would bring the credit card companies in. They just line them up. First day was student loans and credit cards. We just funnel the kids into to get their credit cards. Save money, get good credit. Indoctrination, right? Indoctrination
Right.
camps. Just dig
Yeah.
them into debt. College, student loans. Textbook costs $50. Put it on my student loans. Like, this is crazy. Like, this is not. So then the college and the student union were basically bribed with more money to basically let credit cards and convince the students that, oh yeah, they need all these student loans and credit card debts to save money and get good credit. All schools are indoctrination camps. That's what I think. I put it in the book. I said, school is not education, it's indoctrination. And it is. It's indoctrination to work hard, get an education, go to debt, get your student loans, save money, get good credit, put your money in a retirement account, pay your taxes, and fund those retirement accounts so you can retire one day. You're not going to win. Oh, how come? I mean, 99% of the people that are doing that are going to fail. I'm like, how come I knew that when I was 16 years old? I was like, this is wrong. There's something wrong with this. You mean? I don't know.
Very interesting.
I was very skeptical. So
skepticism, I think, is important, particularly, I mean, over the last maybe 10 years, we've learned everybody or many people used to think that the news was telling you what's actually going on. And I think, as you're saying, it seems to be some sort of a system of indoctrination. Now, again, I don't want to put you on the spot. So if you're not prepared to answer this question,
I don't want you to ask me the tough questions, man. Those are the fun ones.
So earlier this morning, I published a thread here about former FBI General Counsel and Robert Mueller prosecutor Andrew Weissman. And what I've discovered is Mr. Weissman went into a real estate transaction in 2023 with this guy named Leonard Tarbaroff, who was a New York real estate attorney and an activist investor who was a business partner to Jeffrey Epstein in the 80s during this Tower financial scandal that later Stephen Hoffenberger testified was a Ponzi scheme and that all kinds of fake sources of money were coming into. Here's Hoffenberg, excuse me.
Yeah.
And just a bunch of history about Epstein, about Mr. Weissman. This is news about him spending $7.5 million on this 2-condominium real estate deal. But here is the part that's worth investigating from a financial standpoint. Weissman obtains a mortgage from, First Republic Bank on April 26th, 2023.
Yeah.
First Republic goes into FDIC receivership 5 days later.
Wow.
And this was already being discussed. It's taken over by JP Morgan. All of these bad debts, I guess, collateralized in some way, or this is stuff that I don't know what happens after this, but it seems fishy to me. And then the strange thing is, when we look at, so here's the red flags. The deal is structured to look like 2 separate condo buys, possibly to obscure the total value, and no New York City transfer tax is recorded in the deal. Now, in a $7.5 million transaction, does it seem weird to you that there'd be this many zeros, or do I not know something about what we're looking at?
I don't know. Again, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to dig into that one. Again, I just
seems odd though, doesn't it?
Just don't know enough about it. Yeah, it's really odd. I mean, and the thing that's the people that are screaming the most, they probably have that stuff here and there, and they're screaming of it, right? So, I mean, that's the thing. So, but yeah.
No, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. You've never seen any of this research before.
Here's what I will tell you. There was a bank name there. I'm not going to name the bank, but you can Google which bank had the bank account for Bernie Madoff. There was one big bank that had one bank account for all of Bernie Madoff's money. So all the money that was supposed to be invested was sitting in one big bank.
Yeah, that's JP Morgan Chase. And they're the ones who took over this.
They had to have known the entire time that he was running a Ponzi scheme, because it was impossible for him not to it. So why did they not come out and go, hey, that's called that suspicious activity report? If I was a financial advisor and I saw something, I didn't do that, man, I'm in big trouble. Lose my license, potential criminal charges, not filing suspicious activity reports. But they never filed one. Or if they did, where did the suspicious activity report disappear to?
Yeah.
I'm just asking questions.
And they're good questions, definitely good questions. I want to definitely encourage viewers to purchase the book, Be Smart, Pay Zero Taxes. Use the buy, borrow, die strategy to get rich and stay rich. Mark has written this book. You can get it on Kindle. You can get it on audiobook, and I appreciate that, Mark. It's a great way, I think, for people to consume book content when you're driving around or riding the subway. And I mean, by the way, so if you're just signing up to Audible, you can get this for 99 cents. But frankly, even if you save $22 on your taxes, this book is basically free. So there's kind of no reason not to get it. Mark, I know you're a busy guy and you've got a lot of books written. Is there anything else that you feel we should cover?
Okay, so basically inflation. Inflation steals from the poor and gives to the rich, because inflation is the creation of money in a computer. Let's take the average American for a moment. If I buy a house for $400,000 and I put 3% down, I put $12,000 of my money, where does the other $388,000 come from?
Fractional reserve banking, I think.
Yeah, they basically computers. They create $388,000 in a computer, and then they use that to buy your home. Did you pay taxes on the $388,000?
No. Did
you have to spend your time? Imagine how much time it takes to earn $388,000 of after-tax money.
It distorts the whole value of money, doesn't it?
Okay. Now, did you have to fight inflation? Imagine how long you had to fight inflation to earn that $388,000. You didn't. You just signed a mortgage document, right? Great. They created... So if you just created $388,000 and you didn't spend your time, you paid no taxes, and you didn't have to fight inflation while earning it, why would you want to do that again? Why wouldn't
Right.
you just take that one, rent that one, and go do it again? Create another $400,000. Make sense? But this
Yeah.
time, take a margin loan from you have your brokerage account over here. You borrow the 12,000. Didn't have to work for that money either. Then you borrow the other 388,000 in a mortgage. You got another 400 grand. Didn't work for it. See, when people buy real estate and then pay it off, I'm like, really? You want to pay more taxes? The rich aren't concerned with getting out of debt. They're using assets that they can invest and borrow from. They'll multiply it. They can take their brokerage account, huge brokerage account filled with stocks, borrow, go buy a piece of artwork, stick it on the wall, take a loan against the artwork, buy Bitcoin with it. Bitcoin goes up, borrow from the Bitcoin to buy life insurance to
But
do their
isn't that
estate
risky?
planning.
Bitcoin goes up and down every day. You borrow against a Bitcoin investment.
I'm just
You could be
using
upside
an
down.
example. I
Right.
buy Bitcoin every single day. I'm just never going to sell it. I don't care.
Wow.
Fidelity report puts Bitcoin at $1 million per Bitcoin by 2030, 32,
Really?
2032. So yeah, totally. Yeah, it's in the book. It's a
Wow.
couple chapters on Bitcoin. You can check out the Fidelity report on that. I put Bitcoin at 10 million by 2038. 10 million.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, but you have 95% of the Bitcoin is that it will ever be in existence already exists today. That's 5% for the rest of the world to fight with, to fight for, to share. You have a strategic reserve, Bitcoin reserves, the United States. Then you have states. There's going to be states. Pennsylvania was one. There's a bunch of other ones. They're going to be competing to buy up all the Bitcoin. You're going to have
Really?
corporations. MicroStrategies owns 500,000 Bitcoin. Just that one company alone. GameStop just started buying Bitcoin. El Salvador, that's their official currency. Okay.
Wow.
Here's the crazy part. The dollar was crashing. They bought Bitcoin. They're in debt to the money. They're in debt to, I don't want to go that deep. I don't want to, stir too many pots today.
Right.
But yeah, they were heavily in debt to some people that lend them money. Okay. They go, oh, let's buy Bitcoin. So they bought Bitcoin and then they can pay off the thing and they're now free of those people they owed money to. So
wasn't it us?
Go deeper down that rabbit hole, right? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's that. Yeah, it's a bigger picture. Like, debt is control. See, but if you either roll with the system like everyone else, and 99% of the people are going to fail, or you learn how to do this. You spend your 100 hours this year. You get the book. That's not enough. You got to spend 100 hours. Learn it 1 hour a day, 100 days straight. Learn it. And then you'll be one of the smartest people in the United States. You'll be smarter than financial advisors and CPAs. And if you run it for a while, you can get rich, teach your kids buy, borrow, die, teach your family buy, borrow, die. I've been doing it for 4 years right now. I've taught about 600 people. Now there's 600 people now teaching 600 other people. And I'm going to run this thing pretty soon. Next year, by the end of this year, we'll probably have 20, 30,000 people using buy, borrow, die. By the next year, we'll have a few 100,000. Give it another couple of years, we'll have a couple million. And then we're going to create 1 million new millionaires. By the way, I always follow up with what I say I'm going to do. I don't say something and not pull it up. So mark the day. Within 4 years to 5 years, we'll have 1 million new millionaires.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, people definitely want to go and check out the perfect portfolio.
Yeah, we have a video course. By the way, I spent a lot of money on this. I spent over $500,000 running the company of my own personal money. I spent 60,000 hours. I resigned and gave up a fortune in the financial industry to do this. So why do we charge? Because it was a very expensive. You know what I mean? We got a company, we're expanding, it's not cheap. So yeah, but you if you spend $100,000 at a university, you'll walk out of there, you'll come in here, you'll learn more than you will going to any financial university in the United States. You go there and spend $100,000 or $200,000 in finance classes, you'll never learn what's in the book. Yeah.
Yeah, I like this. And, I got to say, for people who are feeling like maybe the course is a lot to take on at once, you can get the book, read it, get your feet wet, see how you feel about Mark's ideas and things like that. And you can always go and take the course another time. It's very interesting what you're talking about here, Mark. And I've only just begun. I mean, like I said, I think I might have mentioned this to you before we got on air. I'm guilty of not being as dialed into my finances as I should. I'm definitely not fancy enough to be as removed from my taxes as I have been for so many years. And it's only the past 2 years. I think this is a pretty normal thing. When everybody's going along well and making money and you can pay all your bills, you don't look at that sort of stuff, you know? It's when you have to start canceling HBO Max and you're like, wait a minute. And you start digging in. And that's when I started looking at my tax bill and I was like, wait a minute, does H&R Block really know what they're talking about? I feel like I spend most of my money on stuff for the show. Can't I write that off? And I started like loading my credit card bills and my bank statements into AI, saying, hey, go through here and look at everything that was either like, you know, a cell phone bill or an internet bill or a piece of electronics or a piece of software, and tell me what I spent on that and can I write it off? And it was like, almost every, like I said, I pay almost half of what H&R Block said I would have to pay because they didn't go through that process. And I did not yet know about your book. I guess the book must have popped up because I was doing so much internet activity with tax stuff.
Right.
You know, and so then it was like, this guy's obviously looking for something with taxes. And the book is new. It's just come out, right, this year in March.
Yeah, we've been out, I don't know, is it about a month or something like that? It's like number one, we've sold massive amounts of books. We actually ran out of stock on Amazon twice.
Wow.
Yeah, so the thing about it is it's not called Be Smart, Pay Zero Taxes because you might be able to do it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You can do it. It's not that hard. I simplified it. It's fun to read. I got some jokes in there. I keep it light. I got a glossary of terms in there. It's 400 pages, but I promise you it's not boring. I hate tax books. I can't stand them. I'd rather pull my fingernails out than read tax books. They're just dry. They all suck. All of them suck. I've read them all. They all suck. They're boring. I was a bricklayer. I was like, how do I simplify things so bricklayers? It's dedicated to ordinary Americans. Okay.
That makes sense.
The publishing company emailed me and said, Mark, this is really interesting what you're doing. Could you write a book on it? I'm like, whoa, a major publishing company just asked me if I wanted to write a book. I don't know if I can do that. I'm pretty busy. I was like, all right, cool. I'll just work night and day for 10 months and team of CPAs and things and a co-author and blah, blah, blah. And we pulled it off and here it is. So it's fun. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's absolutely great. Well, people should definitely follow Mark on X at Mark with a K. Mark J. Quann, Quann, not to be confused with quantitative, but he does have a bit of that going on.
It's Jerry Maguire, not the Quann, right? Right? The Quann, Jerry Maguire, right?
Right, exactly.
Right.
That's
all
really
about the Quann. That's good.
Right. And then the other thing is people can also visit theperfectportfolio.com. You can learn everything about Mark's investing strategies and his training course that you can take. So, Mark, it's an online course or people go somewhere to meet you to do this?
Again, we like what? This is not for everybody. So we said, look, you can read the book and then you can just go to your CPA and implement everything and then I have nothing to do with it. Okay. Some people go, I need a little help. We did a video course. We recorded our 16-hour course. We recorded it. We threw it on there and you can do that. You might pay you $600, but what if it saves you $4,000 in taxes or $5,000 or $10,000 in taxes?
That's right.
Plus you're going to get an education that's priceless, right? We have a live course. We're actually running it right now. We did 3 classes. By the way, we'll send you all 3 classes for free just to see if this is suitable. If it's not suitable, don't pay us a dime. We don't care. I'm not chasing clients. Like, I don't know. I'm like, find the people that want to do this. We have a live course, which we're doing right now. That's $21.95. But here's the thing. Let me ask you a question. What if you had an investment account and you pressed the borrow button, created $2,200 and then paid for the course? Did you have to spend your time doing it? If you itemized your deductions as a business owner, that's a tax deduction. The government owns you money. The government owes you money now. That means the government paid you for my company to teach you how to legally build wealth without paying taxes. We have a consulting firm. We do consulting. That's our course. If somebody has a big tax problem, like I'll have somebody who comes to me and they go, Mark, I'm paying $420,000 a year and my CPA and financial advisor don't know what they're doing. They say they say they can help me and they're having to max out their 401k to save on taxes. I'm like, wow, that's a nightmare. And they go, cool. They can pay us $23,000. We'll work with them for 2 years we'll jump in, we'll have them restruct everything, get a CPA, get a financial advisor, get my CFP, boom, bring in the team, and we'll do tax consulting with the goal of bringing your tax bill as little as possible the first year. Hopefully, number two, we can get you to zero, right?
Amazing.
But it's like, I'm not going to take somebody's money unless I know I can give them massive amounts of value. Like, I just don't want it. Somebody comes to me and goes, I did your course, don't like it. I'm like, here, go, take your money, wish you the best. I don't care. Like, I make plenty of money. Like, I mean, I was tired of being poor. I was really, really tired of being poor. So I wrote this book for ordinary Americans. I taught the guy who put in my deck, I taught him the strategy. He put in my deck.
Wow.
It's like buy,
And
borrow,
is he
die,
rich
right?
now?
That's that.
Is he rich now, the deck guy?
I mean, he's learning something he's never done before. He's investing and pressing buttons. By the way, he started his own business. He's investing. He's growing his wealth without paying taxes. He's borrowing. His fund is in business expenses. He's got business expenses off money that didn't taxed. Ooh, that's a way to wipe out tax liabilities there. You can fund your church with this. You're going to tithe to a church. Don't do your money. Invest, borrow, take the money, donate to your church with it. Ooh, double tax deduction. The government owns you money. Get the money back, put it in your brokerage account. Buy, borrow, die. It is for everyone. Anyone can do it. You can start with $100 in a brokerage account.
Wow. It's very intriguing, I have to say, Mark. Everything that you're talking about, it's hitting
it's
all
funny.
The high notes.
Yeah, I'll get somebody who comes in the course and they're rich, right? But they have no clue. They're CPAs and financial advisors are having them fund retirement accounts. I'm like, he's like, all right, I read your book. That ain't working. Great. So he's like, how do I start? I'm like, put $100 into a brokerage account, right? The rich guy's like, yeah, just do that. That's your baby step number one. A guy who's never invested before. We got a guy who's 82 years old. And he's like, man, I just want to try this. Like, it seems like if I could learn this, I can teach it to my family. Took us an hour and a half. He didn't know how Zoom worked. He couldn't connect his bank. We spent an hour and a half with the guy, right? He got his $100 in his brokerage account, and I built him the same investment thing that I had. It was like he was a 6-year-old on Christmas morning. He was so excited. He's like, he's putting $50 a week into his investment account, and he was like he was a 6-year-old on Christmas morning, right? And he's like, I can learn this and I can teach it to my kids and my grandkids. $100, right? Rich guy, start the same way because they're all at the same level of financial IQ, right? Wow. Crazy. So yeah, it's fun stuff, man. This is the funnest thing I've ever done. It's amazing. I love it. I wake up every day. I see the testimonials for those students. I got hundreds of them. I got all the reviews for people either love the book or they hate the book.
Well, it's mostly people loving it. 84% give it 5 stars, 6% 4 stars, 5% 3, and only the remaining 5 at 2 or 1.
Yeah, and the negative reviews are people who seem to ignore all the information in the book. Like that, I'm like, did you actually read the book?
That's H&R Block or something writing that. Everybody here is very excited about it.
I'm also getting negative reviews because I mentioned Elon Musk. I love Teslas. I mentioned Teslas in there, and I mentioned Doge in there. So I think some of them are just people that go, oh no, he likes Teslas and Elon Musk. Doge, negative review. So whatever. I don't really care. Like, let them do that. I just don't care. There's a chapter on how to for people that like Teslas, section 179. Go buy a Tesla as a business owner, write it off on your taxes, right? So you can celebrate tax deductible tacos and tequila Tuesdays in a Tesla, right? Bam, right? It's a thing. It's a thing. So
that's great. That's really great. So Mark, one final question before we go. So you've told us you're a Canadian expat. You're an American now.
Yeah.
What do you think about what's going on with Canada? It's been an incredible erosion of rights, hasn't it?
Yeah, the truckers thing. I had family who are truckers. That wasn't just socialism. That was authoritarianism. The people who have wanted to start the thing, I think they're going to put them in jail now. You had people that were literally just donated $10 to the truckers. They seized their bank accounts. Canada's not really a free country anymore. It just isn't. So yeah, that's a problem. I really want Pierre Polyev. Otherwise, in Canada's in trouble. And I'll give you an example. In Canada, milk is like $7 for a thing of milk. So Canadians can't afford milk, right? It's just crazy. You got to be rich to enjoy milk. Okay. but they quota the farmers. They have a quota. The farmers can only produce so much work. There's a quota. If they produce too much, meaning the cows are producing too much milk, the government orders them to dump it into a trough and throw it into the garbage because they want to have price controls. So Canada's in trouble.
Really communist stuff.
Yeah, price controls aren't just socialism. They cross the line over there. So I'm very much hoping Canada, the leadership changes and gets rid of that stuff. And honestly, Canada should be a superpower. Here's the thing. Canada should be a superpower, and they can. United States can be a superpower. We can have two superpowers right next to each other, both independent, and make North America just powerhouse in the world. If we dominate in manufacturing, dominate in energy, we're talking oil, we're talking nuclear, we're talking solar, dominate in those, dominate in Bitcoin, dominate in artificial intelligence. Man, we can have the most powerful. North America would just unbeatable. Canada and the United States, they all become independent of each other, stop buying oil from other countries. Like the United States buys oil from Canada. Canada buys, like, why? The United States buys oil from Saudi Arabia. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
It just doesn't
make a lot of sense. But what about all this Canada? I get the sense that you don't want Canada to be the 51st state.
Nah, Canada doesn't want that. Canada wants to be independent, but they're suffering. Their people are very, very suffering. The poverty is growing incredibly fast because price controls. Once you go down that road, you can't turn back from that. So Canadians need to wake up and start voting conservative because the left, they're so left. They're not even into socialism. They're digging deep into what considered is communism. So yeah, Canada's got to turn around, and I'm hoping that the leadership changes for the sake of all Canadians.
And do you think that Trump's tariffs, from a financial standpoint, is that going to help, or where are you at with the tariffs?
It's just ridiculous. The reason they needed tariffs is the system was so messed up forever for 40 years. Like it's just tariffs are an amazing financial tool. It's just a financial tool, right? If everyone's buying cars that the parts are made in China and then they're made in Mexico, and then we buy them, we can't compete because they're using slave labor in China, making them in Mexico, and they're producing these cars. We can't make cars in America anymore, and you can't make cars in Canada. That doesn't make any sense. Tariff the cars, boom, and then you have to move manufacturing here. Canada should have massive manufacturing. The United States should have a manufacturing. They should stop buying everything from China. I think if everybody tariffed China, it would be great. Canada, tariff China, 400%. United States, 400%. Get all countries to do it. Just tariff China. Just done. They've been stealing our factories and our jobs for 40, 50 years. Like at 88, Trump's on Oprah talking about how China and the United States is getting, stolen, and they're stealing our jobs, and they're, and 88 on Oprah. So this is like not something new. I mean, it's just, Canada needs to put Canada first. United States needs to put United States first. And that's it. And America,
Absolutely.
man, we can make North America just unbeatable in the world.
Yeah, and it looks like China might be ready to meet. Trump is definitely good at slinging the BS, whatever we want to call it, making deals, convincing people of things. It's one of his specialities. So whatever the finance experts want to say about these tariffs, in the end, it's going to be determined when the rubber meets the road and Mr. Trump gets together with Mr. Xi. It's been really a pleasure meeting you here today, Mark. I do hope that many of our Crowdsource the Truth viewers, we got a little jammed up here with the times of India. I hope that the Crowdsource the Truth viewers will purchase your book, Pay Zero Taxes. People have to be smart and pay zero taxes, not by being sovereign citizens. I do not recommend that. You're going to get the window on your car smashed and the cops will drag you out. But using your brains and the law, Mark has figured out a way for you to get rich, to stay rich, and to not pay taxes. Mark, anything you want to say to our viewers before we wrap it up for today?
This book is for independent thinkers. Like it's not an emotional book. It's tax codes. It's fun to read. Just take it slow, use baby steps. I don't suggest rushing this. Everything's in there. You can, the little thing in there, what you use, start your account with $100, give it a shot. If you don't like it, go back to funding your tax deferred retirement accounts.
There you go.
That you'll never retire on.
Exactly. I like the advice. I'm going to get the book, and next year, hopefully, I will be paying zero taxes. I want to remind people that they can sponsor Crowdsource the Truth by going to crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. You can also sponsor by becoming a subscriber on X at JG_CSTT. I want to thank Mark Quann, the author of Be Smart, Pay Zero Taxes. Wonderful advice for everybody. Mark, thank you for joining us here today. We'll have you back and keep talking about this.
Yeah, man, read the book, mark it up, give me the tough questions, and let's do it again.
There you go.